Jake, after 17 years, we are cutting your position, my boss stated bluntly. Please clear out your desk by the end of the day. I'm Jake Wilson, 54 years old, and until that Monday morning, I was a senior systems analyst at Meridian Technologies in Columbus, Ohio. For nearly 2 decades, I had been the foundation of the IT department. From the days of dial-up to cloud transitions, 3 CEOs came and went while I remained, training each new hire, recovering lost files, and working through weekends and holidays without seeking a promotion or recognition. So when Daniel summoned me to his office with Vanessa from HR already there, I sensed the outcome before he even spoke. The atmosphere had shifted weeks prior. I completely understand, I replied, nodding once. I exited without saying another word. No anger, no begging, just a quiet acknowledgement of the situation. Back at my desk, I noticed younger colleagues glancing in my direction, then quickly diverting their eyes to their screens. News spreads quickly. Many of them were coders I had trained personally. Good kids, but they were unaware of the intricate details built into our systems or how the older architecture functioned. None of them could navigate the custom software I developed or the admin credentials hidden 3 layers deep in every system. I began to pack my personal belongings carefully. A family photo, the coffee mug my son crafted in high school, the little cactus that somehow thrived for 17 years under fluorescent lights. Bethany from marketing stopped by, her expression tight with worry. Jake, I just heard, this is absurd. You practically built this place. I shrugged. Companies change direction, but without any notice after everything you've done. Her voice rose, drawing attention. It's okay, I said softly. Really? It wasn't okay, but I didn't want to create a scene. As I was leaving, Daniel emerged from his office to observe my departure. No farewell, no handshake, just watching to ensure I actually left. What none of them had noticed over the years was that I had become the most essential person in the entire building. Not because I was extraordinary, but because I was meticulous. I documented everything, establishing secure audit protocols years ago to monitor unauthorized access at the request of the legal team during a previous scandal. I also had backup copies. In my car, I paused for a moment, gazing back at the 12-story building where I had spent most of my adult life. The security badge I had just returned had been renewed 16 times. I started the engine and drove home. They had no idea that Wednesday would be interesting. I had been with Meridian since it occupied just 2 floors in a business park. I began when my daughter Olivia was in kindergarten. Now she was completing her graduate studies. The company expanded, and I expanded with it. I turned down offers from rivals because loyalty was important to me. My wife Andrea used to joke that the servers were my second family. She wasn't entirely wrong. I was familiar with every system, every workaround, every backdoor solution to issues the executives didn't even realize existed. The infrastructure I created had endured 3 acquisitions and countless innovations that management embraced and then discarded months later. Daniel became my supervisor 5 years ago, a young MBA type who referred to our department as IT resources instead of people. He had ideas about streamlining, efficiency, and digital transformation. Buzzwords that typically meant doing more with less. Initially, I attempted to help him grasp our systems and the complexity buried beneath years of growth and adaptation. We must ensure we are prepared for the future, he would often say in discussions, looking right past me. 6 months prior, he hired a consultant named Jason Phillips. Dressed in an expensive suit with a firm handshake and a Stanford degree prominently featured on his LinkedIn. They would gather in conference rooms, whispering whenever I walked past. 3 months ago, I began to notice subtle changes in my access permissions. Nothing overt, just minor adjustments to administrative settings. I could have voiced my concerns, but instead, I chose to observe and take notes. You seem a bit off lately, Andrea remarked one evening while we were on the porch. Is everything all right at work? I nodded while taking a sip of my beer. Just some changes, nothing I haven't encountered before. Yet these changes felt distinctly different. I found myself being excluded from meetings. Communications about system upgrades no longer included me. Younger colleagues were assigned to tasks I typically managed. Then I stumbled upon it. A company-wide memo regarding modernization efforts that I'd never received. It detailed a complete overhaul of the IT department under new management, Jason Phillips. My role wasn't even listed on the organizational chart. That same day, I uncovered something else. While conducting a routine security scan, one of those background tasks that others neglected, I detected unusual activity in our financial software. Regular payments to a vendor I had never heard of, Apex Solutions Group. A quick search revealed it was registered just the previous year at an address that pointed to a UPS store. The authorized payments had begun modestly but were increasing each month. I remained silent, simply documented it, copied the records, and kept observing. Sometimes the quiet observer in the corner notices everything precisely because everyone assumes he notices nothing. The morning after my termination, I sat in my home office staring at my personal laptop. No alarm had disturbed my sleep. No commute loomed ahead. Just silence and the heaviness of reality. Andrea brought me coffee, setting it beside me without saying a word. After 19 years of marriage, she understood when I needed solitude. "I'm heading to the store," she eventually said. "Do you need anything?" I shook my head. After she left, I unlocked the bottom drawer of my desk and retrieved a flash drive, one of several I kept secure. Company rules strictly forbade the removal of data. But years ago, when the legal team required an audit system to track potential insider threats, I had insisted on the need for off-site backups. They approved it, then promptly forgot about it. I plugged it in and started going through the files, internal emails, meeting minutes I shouldn't have accessed, financial records that ordinary employees wouldn't see. There it was, a complete record of payments to Apex Solutions Group, totaling nearly $1.8 million over 18 months. The approval trail led straight to our CFO, Brian Wilcox. I delved deeper, cross-referencing dates and amounts until the pattern became clear. The payments corresponded perfectly with a series of software license renewals for systems we used across the company, but the costs were inflated, sometimes by 15%, sometimes by 20%. Just enough to avoid raising immediate suspicion, yet significant enough to accumulate. I pulled up the business registration for Apex Solutions Group. The listed owner was Thomas Wilcox. A quick social media search confirmed my suspicion. Brian's brother-in-law. They were siphoning company funds through inflated charges on legitimate expenses. I leaned back in my chair, feeling a shift within me. Not anger per se, but something colder, more determined. For 17 years, I had solved problems, fixed systems, and safeguarded data. I had been the dependable one, the steady presence who never stirred trouble. And they cast me aside like obsolete equipment. My phone vibrated with a message from Steven, a junior analyst I had guided over the last 2 years. "I apologize for yesterday. What they did was complete nonsense. Phillips is already taking over your former office." I placed the phone down without replying. The puzzle pieces are all coming together now. Daniel and the CFO wanted me out before anyone could piece together their plot. They likely believed the proof would vanish with me, that I was merely an outdated tech guy out of touch with contemporary finance. I opened my email and began crafting a note to the board of directors. Then I paused, my finger hovering over the send key. Too straightforward, too easy to dismiss as the resentful claims of a terminated employee. I required leverage, accuracy, a means to reveal the fraud that couldn't be overlooked or concealed. I erased the draft and started formulating a plan. Tomorrow is Wednesday, the day of the board meeting. Quarterly financials will be reviewed. Bonuses will be sanctioned. Ideal timing. I shut the laptop and approached the living room window, gazing out at the neighborhood where we had raised our children and built our lives. For the first time since yesterday, I felt a smile emerge. On Wednesday morning, I waited in my car across from Meridian's headquarters, observing employees flow through the revolving doors. In the passenger seat was my laptop, logged into an email account I had set up years ago for security testing. It seemed to originate from an internal company domain, but was not tracked in the main directory. At precisely 9:15 a.m., I made my first move. An email to Daniel with the subject line, "Financial irregularities. Immediate review required," along with a brief overview of what I had discovered concerning the Apex payments. I provided just enough detail to seem credible while omitting the brother-in-law connection. If Daniel was implicated, he would panic. If he wasn't, he would investigate. In either case, I would gain insight. By 9:45, my phone rang. It was Daniel's number. I let it go to voicemail. His message was brief. "Jake, we need to talk about your email right away. Please call me back." I didn't. Instead, I headed to a coffee shop, set up my laptop, and waited. At 10:30, another email arrived. This one was from Vanessa in HR. "Mr. Wilson, we have received concerning communication from you that may breach your separation agreement. Please refrain from all contact with Meridian employees and remember your confidentiality obligations. Further communications may lead to legal consequences. So this was their strategy. Intimidate, dismiss, isolate. I hadn't signed any separation agreement. At noon, I went to my bank and accessed my safe deposit box. Inside was another backup, older but containing vital information I hadn't included in my regular drives. Among the documents were original security protocols I had created, including records of who had access to which systems and when modifications were made. According to these documents, Brian Wilcox had specifically requested expanded access to the financial approval systems 18 months ago, right when the Apex payments started. Back at home, I noticed 3 more missed calls. Daniel, Vanessa, and now Jason Phillips. I hadn't anticipated him getting involved so swiftly. Interesting. I checked my personal email to find a message from Steven marked urgent. Jake, they're saying you sent some wild email about financial fraud. Phillips called an emergency meeting. Everyone's talking. They're revoking your access to everything, even historical data. We need to do our jobs. What's happening? Poor kid. He's caught in the middle of this chaos. I sent a quick reply. Don't get involved, Steven. Just observe. At 3 p.m., my landline rang, a number I hadn't used for work in years. I answered but remained silent. Jake, it's Brian Wilcox, he said, his tone steady and measured. We need to discuss your concerns. I believe there's been some confusion. Is that how you refer to it? I replied. Listen, transition phases are always challenging. If you have inquiries about company finances, there are appropriate channels, like the board. I cut him off. Then there was silence. The board shouldn't be troubled with operational specifics. How about we meet tomorrow? Just the 2 of us. We can sort this out. Sorry, I'm tied up tomorrow, I replied. Moreover, I believe the board might actually be very interested in Apex Solutions Group and your brother-in-law. The sharp breath he took revealed everything. You're making a grave mistake, he finally said. We can rectify this. Generous severance, references, anything you require. Goodbye, Brian, I said before hanging up. Within 10 minutes, Vanessa sent another email. Suddenly, my severance package had increased, accompanied by an agreement demanding my complete confidentiality regarding all company affairs. They were now in a panic, yet they still thought they were facing a mere extortion attempt. They had no clue what was coming. Thursday morning brought clarity and confirmation. I had spent the night analyzing years of data, connecting previously overlooked dots. The Apex scheme wasn't Brian's first foray into creative accounting. 3 years ago, shortly after he took on the CFO role, another pattern surfaced. Consulting fees were funneled to a firm named Lakeside Business Solutions. Different name, same scheme. Inflated invoices for services that were only partially or never delivered. I traced the registration for Lakeside, which led to Patricia Wilcox, Brian's spouse. She appeared to be the CEO of a company lacking a website, employees, and a virtual office address. However, the bigger revelation came when I examined email archives. Daniel wasn't just aware of these dealings. He had helped facilitate them. In return, his department received budget boosts while others faced reductions. He had been specifically brought in because the former director had started questioning IT spending. Even Jason Phillips was involved. His consulting firm had been hired through an unusual process that bypassed standard procurement protocols. His actual role wasn't to modernize it. It was to eliminate the one individual who might notice the financial discrepancies. Me. The scheme was brilliantly simple. Create seemingly legitimate vendors, approve inflated payments, and split the excess. Since actual services were provided at marked up rates, auditors looking for completely fraudulent charges would overlook it. Over 3 years, they siphoned off nearly $4.3 million. I compiled everything into a detailed report. Spreadsheets illustrating the pattern of increases, business registrations linking the companies to Brian's family, and email exchanges demonstrating Daniel's awareness and involvement. Then I took an action they wouldn't foresee. I reached out to Robert Chen, a board member I had collaborated with years ago during a security implementation. He was semi-retired now, but still attended quarterly meetings. Jake Wilson, he said, answering on the second ring. Long time I heard you left Meridian. Not by choice, I replied. Robert, I need 15 minutes of your time. It's crucial. There was silence. Is this about why Brian and Daniel have been looking stressed and huddled together? The board meeting was tense yesterday. Probably, he chuckled. Always thought you knew where the bodies were buried. Where can we meet? An hour later, we were seated in a park 3 miles from headquarters. I handed him a sealed envelope containing a printed summary and a flash drive. That's everything, I said. Dates, amounts, connections. I'm not seeking my job back. I'm not seeking financial gain. I simply want the right individuals to be informed. Robert observed me closely. Why did you come to me? Because you actually analyze audit reports. I've noticed your engagement in meetings. You pose questions. He acknowledged this with a slow nod. An emergency board meeting is scheduled for tomorrow. A review by the finance committee. Quite the coincidence, Jake, he remarked, placing the envelope in his pocket. If this is verified, there will be significant repercussions. I'm hoping for that. As I made my way back to my vehicle, I received a text from Andrea. A person named Jason Phillips stopped by the house looking for you. He claimed it was urgent. I informed him that you were unavailable. They're becoming increasingly anxious. Good. Later that day, I received job offers from 2 rival companies, both for roles far exceeding my previous position, each with generous signing bonuses. News of my sudden availability had spread. I chose to disregard them for the time being. This wasn't about securing another position. It was about completing what they had initiated. That evening, using access credentials that should have been disabled but weren't. Careless transition. Jason, I logged into the company's email server one last time and scheduled a message to be sent to every board member at 8:00 a.m. tomorrow. Before you approve the Q2 bonuses, review this. Included was my complete report. Friday morning arrived bright and clear. I sat on my porch with coffee, observing the neighborhood come to life. No alarm, no commute, just waiting. At exactly 8:00 a.m., my scheduled email sent its contents to the board members. By 8:17, my phone started ringing. Unfamiliar numbers, likely assistants of board members trying to contact me. I let all of them go to voicemail. At 9:00 a.m., the Emergency Finance Committee meeting was set to start. Robert Chen would be present with my documents, watching their responses as my email was uncovered and discussed. At 9:32, Stephen texted, "Police are here. Will Cox and Daniel are being questioned in conference rooms. Phillips looks ill. What did you do?" I didn't reply. The events were unfolding just as I had predicted. By 10:00 a.m., Meridian's general counsel reached out. Unlike the others, I chose to answer this call. "Mr. Wilson, this is Patricia Graves from Legal. We need you to come in right away to discuss the information you've shared with the board." "I can discuss this over the phone," I responded. "This truly necessitates a face-to-face meeting." "No, it doesn't," I interjected calmly. "Everything I possess is detailed in that report. All my data is secured in multiple locations. Should anything happen to me or my family, additional copies will be sent to the SEC, IRS, and 3 news organizations." Silence followed. "Mr. Wilson," she eventually said, her tone carefully controlled. "The board is taking this very seriously. They've already placed several executives on administrative leave pending an investigation. They would value your cooperation. I've fully cooperated by supplying complete documentation. My role is finished." After she ended the call, I drove to a diner 20 miles outside Columbus. No point in being easily located today. During lunch, news began to surface on local business websites. Meridian Technologies executives are under scrutiny for financial misconduct. No names have been released yet, but that will change. At 2 p.m., Robert Chen called. "It's chaos," he said without any introduction. "Brian admitted everything once we confronted him with your evidence, trying to negotiate a deal, blaming Daniel for pressuring him. Daniel is denying all allegations. And Phillips insists he was merely a consultant with no knowledge of financial issues. The board isn't accepting that. We've suspended all 3 while further investigations are conducted. The forensic accountants are scheduled to arrive on Monday. Initial estimates indicate at least $4.5 million misappropriated over 3 years, possibly more." I acknowledged my thoughts with a nod. I had been on the verge of something significant. "The board wishes to speak with you," Robert continued, "about your return, not just to your previous role. They are establishing a new position for Chief Security Officer, reporting straight to the board." I had foreseen this scenario, yet I was still taken aback. "I'll consider it," I replied. That night, I shared everything with Andrea. She listened attentively, then inquired, "What do you wish to do?" That was a good question. The retribution aspect was done. Those who had forced me out were now being ousted, likely facing legal repercussions. Justice had been served coldly and accurately. However, going back to Meridian meant returning to the environment that had cast me aside after 17 years of dedication. Could I actually do that? Was it what I wanted? "I need some time to think," I finally responded. Later that evening, I opened my laptop one last time and posted a single update to my otherwise inactive LinkedIn profile. Never sever ties, simply let them crumble under their own avarice. Within moments, former colleagues began reaching out. News was circulating. The unassuming systems guy had taken down 3 executives without raising his voice. By Monday, everyone would be aware of just how much they had underestimated me. On Monday morning, I entered Meridian's headquarters in a suit I hadn't worn in years. The security guard did a double take, then swiftly printed a visitor badge for me. "Welcome back, Mr. Wilson," he said with newfound esteem. The elevator ride to the executive floor was silent. I had never had a reason to visit this level before. Now I was expected in the boardroom. 10 board members were seated around a gleaming table. Robert Chen gave a slight nod as I walked in. The interim CEO, formerly the COO, appeared uneasy. "Mr. Wilson," she began, "thank you for coming. The matter you've exposed is unprecedented." I remained quiet. "The full scope of the fraud seems to be more severe than initially reported," she continued. "The forensic team has uncovered nearly $5.2 million in misappropriated funds. Criminal charges are being prepared." Still, I held my silence. Robert cleared his throat. "Jake, the board has unanimously decided to create a new executive role, Chief Information Security Officer with full executive privileges, directly reporting to the board. We would like to offer you this position." I placed my folder on the table. "Inside, you will find my stipulations," I stated. "Non-negotiable." The CEO opened it, skimming through quickly. Her eyebrows raised in surprise. "Full audit authority across all departments. Independent veto power on financial technology decisions." I nodded once. "This is quite unusual," she remarked. "So was embezzling $5.2 million, I countered. "That occurred because no one was monitoring the situation. Now someone will." The room fell silent. "You have until noon," I said as I stood up. "I have other offers." As I turned to exit, Robert asked, "Did you intend this from the start, Jake?" I hesitated at the door. I didn't plan to be terminated after 17 years. Everything following that was simply me doing what I've always done, identifying system weaknesses and putting in place necessary security measures. At 11:47, they called. They had accepted all my terms. 6 months later, I was in my new corner office reviewing security protocols for the upcoming quarter. The view showcased the Columbus skyline, a daily reminder of how much had transformed. Brian Wilcox had pleaded guilty to multiple fraud charges. In return for his cooperation, he would receive a reduced sentence, though still significant. Daniel was contesting the charges, claiming ignorance of the scheme despite the evidence. Jason Phillips had fled to Brazil but was in the process of being extradited. The majority of the money had been recovered, at least most of it, sufficient enough that the business evaded significant financial harm. My previous team was now under my supervision. Although I had appointed Stephen to manage daily operations, the young man had promise. He just needed someone to recognize it. A knock on my door caught my attention. Andrea was there, beaming. "Are you ready for lunch?" she inquired. I nodded, putting on my jacket. As we passed through the IT department, discussions momentarily hushed. Not out of fear, but out of respect. These individuals understood what had transpired. They knew I could have ruined the company instead of rescuing it. In the elevator, Andrea held my hand tightly. "Happy?" I pondered the question. The frustration that fueled me in those initial days post-termination had diminished. What lingered wasn't precisely joy, but rather a sense of fulfillment, accomplishment. "I'm okay," I replied. Outside, the October sunlight warmed our faces as we headed to a nearby eatery. My phone vibrated with a message from Robert Chen. "The board has approved your increase in the security budget. Unanimous decision." I gave a slight smile. No disputes, no inquiries, just confidence. Andrea picked up on my mood. "What's going on?" "Nothing," I replied, tucking my phone back into my pocket. "Just reflecting on bridges. Some fall apart under their own burden. Others, once mended, become even sturdier than before. I had constructed this one correctly.